All right. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming and joining the evening stream, our monthly chat with Alyssa. And as I was just saying to, actually, first, Alyssa, how are you? Are you having a
I'm
good
fantastic. I love being
February?
here. It seems like only yesterday we were
I
chatting.
know. Um, so I guess just to get into it, I definitely want to ask because I saw your updates, and I was just talking about because I often see your updates on Facebook, and I can never. It's hard to tell the timing of them, but definitely saw some updates on the Gaslight map, which is awesome. But what's at the top of my mind was I saw you got some new minis in, and you were deciding which one to do. Now I Boudica, I know from just kind of historical fantasy Arthurian stuff, kind of Boudica. The other ones I have no idea what those are in reference to, but they
Yeah.
look kind of cool.
Of course, I have a few miniatures. We all do, right? I have quite a collection of miniatures that need some love. Um, but one that I highly cherish is this one by RP Models. And this is a big piece. I don't know if this is going to do this justice or not,
Now
but
are they? And tell me now, are
this
they
is
like
this is a big,
yeah?
big piece right here.
Oh yeah,
You know,
that is big. Now
and
are
like
they
hold
like a boutique model company? Are they I am totally ignorant in kind of modeling or model providers.
No,
Are they kind of
that's a fair question. That's a fair question. Yeah, I suppose you would describe them as boutique. I think it's two guys out of Greece that run this company, and
okay?
one of them is an incredible sculptor, and he comes up with extremely dynamic pieces that are always history based. And I've had a few of those. The camel cataphracti that I did a while ago. A Persian guy up with a big spear and a camel. That was one of theirs. I there's been a couple of others of theirs that I've done, and they really like me. I really like them. So anytime that they release a piece, they're always like, "Do you want one?" I pay for it, but they always hold one for me.
Oh, that's
So
really
this
nice.
Boudica, they didn't even have one left, but then they found this,
Oh,
and they
nice.
got in the missing pieces, and they were like, "Do you want it?" And apparently, it means something special to the owner of the company.
Oh,
So it's
really?
like I
Okay.
feel like that's the one I should do. But do you know why I don't? I'm gonna have to airbrush it, and I'm scared of airbrushing because I'm not very good at it. And very, very
So what's
newbie.
the deal when you're airbrushing? Because I've never. I mean, I know what it looks like. I've seen somebody holding the airbrush and doing a little psh
Mm.
kind of thing with it. But I've as a technique, I guess, particularly when it comes to kind of minis, what is it? Is it just to get like coverage fast as opposed to hand painting it, or
Yes,
what's the
and
deal?
a lot more besides because, yeah, if within the context of, let's say, spraying a base color on something quickly, like even just a primer, yes, like airbrushing it or aerosol can is going to be a lot quicker than a brush, right? But you can also get, because it comes out almost like just like a feather, you can then actually blend in different colors and different shades together in a much smoother transition. It
Okay.
can be a lot easier with very effective results.
Now, are there like accessories for the nozzles so you get different kind of spray things, or is it
You
kind
get
of like
different
a
size
distance?
nozzles,
Okay.
but otherwise it's down to the pressure and your distance that you're holding it at. And now I'm sounding like I know what I'm doing, and I'm not. I'm probably going to strangle myself with the hose by accident. I am a complete noob.
See,
But
I
yeah, I
feel
mean,
like I would be super scared to use it because I'm like,
it's all about
am
well,
I?
and I am too. You don't know what's going to happen with it, right? So it's all about familiarity, and I don't have that familiarity. But yeah, I mean, you can literally get little tiny dots or little tiny lines, but press harder or get a certain distance, much thicker, much bigger coverage.
Okay.
So
Is there an advantage in any of that to using a brush? Is it like more even because you're sort of,
it's going to be an even thing. Yeah, I mean, my concern on the bigger pieces, and I have a statue about this big that I want to do of Nyarlathotep, from Cthulhu Mythos, and he's going to need an airbrush too, because I think if I paint them with a brush, just a regular brush, you're going to see the brush strokes in there. It's going to be less perfect. Now, I could be on crack. If I did this thing nice and thin with the paint, I'll probably be fine with it. But I also think it will take me 5 times longer than if I just used an airbrush. I'll get some nice blending going on, especially on a horse, where you want
yeah, there's
that kind of
some.
blending. So
So you're gonna give the horse a couple of shades, like a palomino. I forget. Think if is that the? Gosh, I
I,
don't
I
know
think
my
we're going to
horse
do something
pattern
fun.
stuff.
Yeah, no, we've got to, right? We've got to. I'm
So
actually going to look up what type of ponies they had in England
Oh boy.
around Boudicca's time, right around 70 AD or whatever, just so I can copy that. And if I see something like this white with black spots,
Yeah.
on one, then that's what I'm going to do. I want something that has a little bit of color
All
going
right.
on, some
I did.
variation.
I did see. I don't know if it was the final, but that picture of a picture you posted of that. I forget what it was, but it was the model you had. Was it like a Roman or Grecian kind of woman, and she was by a fountain. And when you first
Yes.
showed me, you just had like this kind of rough cardboard part for the fountain, but it looks really nice. I mean, I saw like with the water and the little cascading from the. I was like, boy, that turned out super
Yeah. So
nice.
this is a Wargamer US piece. That's the name of the company. Here we go. Hey, Perkins. Um, and you can't see it beautifully detailed, but you kind of get the idea right here. And so there we go. She is a 54 millimeter miniature by Wargamer US, and she's part of a line that they call Hot and Dangerous.
Okay.
And it's basically like historical periods of time, but they get a nice sultry lady in the
Mm,
role, right? And they did a Kickstarter a while ago, and I got in on it. And I was a 28 millimeter sort of collector, so I bought a whole bunch in 28s, and then I got like one in 54, and I had so much fun with it. I was like, you know what? I wish I'd got these in 54s. Well, they actually sent me some, which
wow.
is very kind of them.
Yeah, it's really
And she
nice.
is the first one that I've painted from that batch,
No, I
and she's almost like a Roman centurion, and she's doing her hair, looking at her reflection in her helmet. And then I decided I needed some kind of backdrop to it.
yeah.
So I decided I was going to do a fountain, but I quartered it.
It's just really
And
cool to see it now because if I go
right. And
back
I
and
thought,
look at
well,
like
you know what?
the
I'll get
one the
some
month
water
before,
effects going on in there. And
yeah, I mean it looks really cool. And I remember
then
because
my
when you
mum said,
showed
"Oh,
it
put a koi
before,
fish in there." So I was like, "Okay,
right?
let's do it." So
Because when you showed it before, it was just basically like uncolored cardboard, like roughed out, like, and here's the pool. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm kind of picturing in my head, but I'm like, that's, but now it looks like really, really nice.
it came
Uh,
out really nice. I don't even know what I'm going to do with it. For me, honestly, it is all about just the journey with it. I wanted to play around with some water effects. I've never done that before. I wanted to play around trying to get a spout of water. This is the first time I've done it. So for me, it's that journey. And now I'll probably, I'll auction her off or give her away as a prize on
oh, that's
something to a
nice.
worthy home.
So I think one of the ones that was competing with Boudica for your next project is another hot and dangerous one. Because I remember seeing, was it also from that same kind of line?
Yeah, so I don't know if you guys are gonna see this. I don't know. Oh, there she is. Hedwig, I suppose. Hedwig from the Africa Corps. And look at this little tiger I got it. Look at him rubbing his little head on that shell.
Right.
So she's another one, and she's just, I mean, it's whimsical.
Yeah.
It's just whimsical. So I kind of want to do this one too, and I will do this one at some point. Because I want to get on a nice little sand base, and I've got some wonderful sand
And these are
material
all
that I
just for
can
like generic, any kind of war game. Basically, they're not for a particular product. It's just here
no,
it is. If you
these aren't even for games,
oh,
right? Because
okay,
they're quite tall. These
right,
are more like just you put them in a
display.
display cabinet
Okay,
somewhere. You just have fun playing with it.
yeah, they're really cool. I might have to look at some. If I can ever get like something to put behind me to flavor it up, I'd love to have some miniatures. I was
Hey, that would be
inspired
appropriate. Yeah.
by was it I think it was you and me that talked about contrast painting last time that I actually looked up some videos
Hmm.
and it seems pretty interesting. I watched one on I guess both like whichever the paints that are called contrast paints, and then there's another one that's essentially contrast paints, but they have a different name. I think they call it speed paints or something.
Yes.
I
Yeah,
ended up
all of the
watching a
companies
few
are doing it now.
videos
Yeah.
on them, and it seems really cool because I'm thinking that's low enough. That's sort of the bar to kind of get something usable. I feel like is low enough where I could do it and I wouldn't feel
You
bad.
can get some good results with that. I am not going to knock it, especially quickly getting stuff to the table. Like the results, honestly, I looked at some of them and I'm like, damn, actually, that's not half bad.
Yeah, I mean it's I don't it just seems like not necessarily a replacement for going in and doing like a real job to it, but for somebody like me who's just kind of a noodler, I was thinking like that could kind of get me in the door. That could be
Yeah.
my gateway into mini painting. It was just like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna throw some contrast paint on there, and then I'm sure rabbit holes would open up beneath me, and I'd be sucked down there. But it could be my start. Um, let's talk about the gaslight map. So I remember, and I'm gonna go from your Facebook updates, and you can fill in. But I saw some posting that, like at the kind of the I guess at the book sizing, that a lot of the labels for streets and stuff was kind of more just for like texture, because they're not really readable, but they add kind of they just give sort of a nice feel to the map, and they also bumped up some, like, just messing around with some of the font sizes and whatnot. Is anything else new in the land of
So
Gaslight?
I create work for myself. I really bloody do, and I do it all of the time. I'm doing it on the one at the background of me right now. But so draw Gaslight London 1890. Done it. Got it. They want to make sure that I've got the POIs numbered on the map, and there's about 40, 50 of those.
And these are
I've
ones that
got
are
them
gonna
on there.
be in the game. Like, these are the ones
They're
they're
going to
gonna be
be in the
referencing.
game. They're going to be in the game, or they're significant enough where we have to call it out, like St. Paul's Cathedral, for example. Make sure the bridges are labeled. Got it. Major roads. Got it. But then I'm looking at my reference materials, and I'm looking at the map I've done, and I'm like, I would love to start adding these side roads. I would love to start going into the side roads. Even the alleyways are named a lot of the time, because okay, it's not going to show on the small print like a book so far. Of course, it's not, but it does add some interesting texture. But if I group the labels together, I can just turn them off for the book. They're going to do a poster, and they will show on the poster.
Ah.
So that's worth the effort to me. And that one thing I like to do with my maps is just add a level of detail where someone looks at it and goes, is she nuts? Is she like not all there? And this gives me an opportunity to do that. People look at it and they go, holy heck. And so that's what I'm doing. And I'll be doing it for about 2 months. We are heading into convention period, but my plan is to be basically as far as I can take this thing for the next 30, 40 days. And wherever we net out, that's what I give them.
Wow. So what is the next big con? And that reminds me, I do want to ask you, because I saw you post something about there's going to be a Chaosium con, and I think you're going to that, right?
Yeah,
did I
so
get that
con
right?
season is almost upon us. Obviously, I haven't been to conventions for like 2 years now. Has it been 2 years ago? Like, time is dragging at this stage. But
Yes.
I am now starting to entertain conventions. So the next one is going to be GaryCon next month. I think it's around the 26th of March or something like that. That's the map that I'm doing behind me, because I'm doing their convention map. So then there's going to be Chaosium Con, which is second week of May, if I remember rightly.
And
Or
where's
no,
that
of
one? Is that
April.
like
Second week of
that's like the
April.
Northwest? Is that up near you? Where is it?
No, it's going to be in the Northeast,
Oh,
and it's
Northeast. Oh, okay, good.
Denver,
Oh,
if I remember rightly.
okay.
So,
So not.
and I'm just going to that one as an attendee,
Oh,
although
all
I am
right.
going to be on a panel, because they want me to be on the mapping panel that they've got going on,
I mean, as
and
you
they're going
should
to have
be.
big prints of the maps I've done for them.
Are you gonna do some signings? Are you gonna
If it's
sign something to
asked,
give
I
away?
will absolutely sign something. Yeah, of course I will. Yeah. Although I got to be honest with you, first time someone asked me to sign something, I thought it was kind of weird. And even to this day, I feel it's kind of weird, but I do. I mean, I will sign something if people want me to sign
Out of
things.
curiosity, was it the fact that somebody was asking you? What was the weirdness part?
But it's like, what, you want me to sign your map? Why? Why do you want that? It's just because I just drew a map. I'm nobody. Why? So it's that type of thing.
Yeah, I totally, like, there was another, like, YouTuber kind of content creator guy at um PAX Unplugged, who recognized me on the street, and he was like, "Hey, Hex Press," and I'm like, no, and I've got a mask on, and everything. Like, how the heck do you recognize me out in the street? I'm
Nice,
like, yeah, it
nice.
was kind of a funny moment. Um, so what are you planning to do? So are you just going to be running? Are you going to run a Call of Cthulhu game? Are you just going to play some Call of Cthulhu? Like,
Don't
what's
know yet. Funny enough, I was actually talking with some friends who are going to be all going over there, and we're kind of now trying to coordinate our schedules. There's a woman over at Chaosium called Lynn Hardy, and I would have loved to have gotten one of her games. but I'm just an attendee at that thing, you know. So
I'm
at
sure
this
you could do a
juncture,
little wink and say like,
maybe
I'm
I don't
Alyssa
like playing that
Faden.
type of card though. I really don't.
Yeah.
So I'll probably, yeah, I might run, but honestly, that was going to be a convention where because I'm not going as a guest, I could just have fun.
Yes,
You know,
absolutely.
no, that's a terrible phrase because that sounds like running a game is not fun. But I can go with
It's
no
different. I think it's
responsibility.
yeah, it's
You
different.
know,
You're
someone else
there.
could do the worrying.
Yeah, your only responsibility is your own self. You don't have to worry about
Right. I just
doing
want to
something for
drag
the
my
con.
dice bag around, plonk
There you
myself down
go.
at someone else's table. And so I definitely will be playing in some things. One of the group of friends I'm going with, we're all kind of converging from different parts of the country. You know, he's talking about running a 2-day game and people could just drop in and drop out. So that's a novel approach.
It is. Yeah. So would this be like a Call of Cthulhu game or a different Chaosium?
No, he's going to do Call of Cthulhu, but of course they do RuneQuest as well. They do, and I think they have GURPS. I might be wrong on that. No, they have a universal combat system of some type. But
Yeah,
anyway,
GURPS
they
is
have
Steve
RuneQuest going on.
Jackson.
Right, exactly. You're right.
Did they do other things there? Or is this like because I heard? I mean, just from your posts, I have not heard about it before or anything. Um, wow, Perkins last convention they went to was Gen Con in '93.
That's a long time ago.
That's a long time ago. I have yet to go to a
And
Gen
Gen
Con.
Con
I
was
will
very
hopefully
different back
go to
then
one.
too.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous now.
I've heard stories that like you can't mess around with Gen Con. I was talking to somebody at one of the booths who said if you like lose your place in line, you're toast. If you like get out of order, you're toast. Like they have no time for any kind of mischief, and I guess they're just big enough that they could just essentially just boot you out for whatever. Oh, Perkins says the RPG Lost Souls. Okay. Oh, this is pre-Magic. Wow, that was a long time ago.
I'm sure that they can like sidle you out of the convention if they so wish. I've only been twice. I've never had an experience like that. I've always had a positive experience, but it's also been a very different experience. You see these photographs of like 60,000 people crammed into a hall waiting to get into the vendor hall. Yeah, that's real. You know, they change the landscape of the city every single year when they run that thing. It is a ridiculous amount of people. It's not really my cup of tea, and it's very expensive. You're fighting continually. You fight for your hotel room to be as close as possible, or at least just even get one. You're fighting for your tickets. If you're a vendor, which I was 2 years running, you're actually fighting just to even get a booth because they're always overbooked, and it doesn't matter if you slap down cash. There's no guarantee you're going to get a booth next year.
Yeah, that's
So
what they were
it's
saying.
very
It's like all like seniority. Like if you've been doing it and you behave well, like you'll keep kind of your place in the line. But if you mess up, then you go way to the back, and
or
it's
if you're new, it's a hard
yeah. If you're new,
not to crack. If you're new, you gotta go and but potentially be prepared to either lose money, because it ain't cheap. You know, even little 10 by 10 is not cheap, and you get shoved at the back of the hall because you're newbieville. But you have to do that year after year after year to accrue your points. But you got to be willing to do it with no guarantee of actually being allowed to do it.
right?
So it's very tough.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd like to do it once to do. It's kind of like I want to do Gary Con one year. It won't be this year, but maybe next year we'll be lucky to do it. I'd like to go to Gen Con one year. The PAX Unplugged was kind of nice because it's pretty close. And Philadelphia, getting to here from New York, I could just get in the car and drive, and it's like a
You
couple
see,
hours
those are the
away.
best ones. If you can drive to something, they're the best ones. There are a couple here in the Pacific Northwest. Neither one of them have really grabbed me. You know, I like going to the ones in the center of the country. Your Gary Cons, your Gamehole Con, you know, now Chaosium Con, North Texas RPG. I'll be going to that one this year. Gen Con, I've done it. I did it twice. I definitely got the experience. It's too expensive for me to really think about again, to be
How did
honest.
you like North Texas? Because I've heard a lot of good things about it, but another one that I've never gone to.
North Texas is a really good one. It's a smaller crowd, so it feels way more intimate and family orientated. It's got a nice little gaming area. It's got a nice bar, which sounds stupid, but if you don't have a place to chill in between games, just grab a bite to eat that is very conducive to being relaxed and everything, it kind of is a detriment. So the best conventions for me are a little smaller. You're not fighting crowds. It feels more intimate, like you're hanging with friends no matter where you go. And you can sit somewhere, grab a drink, grab a bite to eat, and feel relaxed. And I love those. And the ones, at Total Con, I'll go to Total Con next year. Total Con was like that too. They're a little smaller. They've still got like a couple of thousand people, I think, turning up, but it always feels less than that. You're never fighting crowds. I hate fighting crowds.
Yeah, that's why I stopped going to well, a couple times I went to Comic Con. I stopped. It just got or New York Comic Con, I should say, not the really huge one, because it was just getting too big, too messy, too crowded, and it just you just felt like you were a sardine in a can. Um, I'm curious. Did Chaosium come to you about anything with the con besides the panel, or like were you
Just
aware
the
that it was
panel.
happening?
You have to remember, like, I'm going to preface this with KSM can't have known who I am. We've just never managed to do work together. They asked me a couple of years ago, and I just had an overflowing plate, so I couldn't. But they asked me like last year, and I'm like, I gotta do it. I can't say no to them again. That would just be terrible. But I'm also talking about Call of Cthulhu all of the freaking time. And if I don't take this opportunity to do a map, especially a London map, they're spoon feeding me this, for
I'm
heaven's
telling
sake.
you.
So I got to do it. But up until that point, yeah, they were aware of me, but not really. So this Gaslight map, and I did another one that's top secret. I can't show you yet, but I will be able to at some point. These maps, I went all out. I mean, I put something on the table that far exceeds what they were expecting.
Oh yeah, and I just figured that with this con, when you posted that they would want you like front and center, like unveil a huge print of that Gaslight map.
Well, I think that's going to be the plan. I like to make an entrance, okay, like in a cartography sense. So if you're going to ask me to do a map and you're a company like Chaosium, I'm going to put something down on the table that makes everyone at Chaosium go, holy balls. That's what I like to do with my maps. And if I can't do that, I don't want the assignment. So I did a holy balls map for them. And they're going to print it out like 50, 60 inches across and have it for the panel. Just even being invited to do the panel on their first convention when I've only done 2 maps for them, that is humbling to me. So they like what I'm doing. They're impressed by what I'm doing. They want to continue the relationship. This is just the start.
Yeah, that's awesome. This is like, I guess they're planning to do this yearly, right?
If this one is successful, and I'm sure it will be, they're just going to keep doing it.
Are they headquartered in Denver? Is that where they're from, Denver?
I actually don't know. I didn't think so, because I know they're all over the place. Like their staff is all over. They gave a reason why Denver, and I think it might have been their origin. That's where they started. So right. It was relevant from that perspective.
Well, at least it's somewhere with good transportation things. Like Gary Con, part of what drives me nuts is just, I mean, like there's nothing to be done with it, but just Lake Geneva is not a super easy place to get to from a lot. From different parts of the country.
Boonies a little bit. You've got to rent a car or something, and you're going to be driving a little bit to get there.
Because I had a chance to kind of do something with that a few years ago, and I couldn't make it happen. I couldn't really find the flights, and then it was like, oh, you got to fly to Chicago and then drive or take a taxi for 3 hours, and I was
no, it's 100% like that. Yeah, no, it is. It is. It was a little bit of a pain in the butt for Jack and I. We've got tickets to get there now, but honestly, we sat there for no exaggeration, like an hour and a half. Just trying to get our flight nailed down. It was harder than it should be. It's just, I guess that's just part of it.
I mean, look, that's where the man was, so they're celebrating the man, so you put it there. But it'll be nice some of these other ones, they're not all in small out of the way places, but an actual metropolitan area. Like how refreshing, I mean, I know North Texas is like it's right in like Dallas Fort Worth, right? Isn't it like right?
It's right, yeah, it's right close to Dallas Fort Worth. Yeah, you could fly right in there or travel across. There's another one. Like Love Airport or something. I could be wrong. It's smaller but nearby. So if you have an option to go there, it's even closer. So that is very accessible.
Yeah. What else is going on for you this spring? Is that it? Just, I mean, obviously.
Well, so we've got Gary Khan, we've got Chaosium Khan, we've got North Texas, and then I'm hoping I can round out the year in October with Gamehole Con, but we'll see how that goes.
Yet another. Well, I mean, I've only been to one con, so I could go through all the cons except for now PAX Unplugged and say, yeah, I've been there. So where's Gamehole Con?
That is also in the Wisconsin area.
Okay. And is it similar? I kind of get it. It's that similar kind of North Texas, and that it's smaller and kind of homier. Is that am I right or
It's actually a little bit of a different field. They have about,
okay?
I want to say about 5,000 people. But it's a big, huge convention center that is adjacent to a hotel. There's actually a corridor that connects the two.
Oh, that's nice.
It's a little less intimate.
Okay,
It is very much convention center, big rooms, big ceilings, big hallways, that type of thing. They don't have a bar at all. They don't have a lounge area. So if you want to eat or grab a bite to eat something, you either eating convention food or you've got to get in your car and go. So it's a little less intimate, but it's a great convention. It really is a good convention. Like people turn up to game. It's almost like going back to Gen Con for a moment. There's a lot of people that go to Gen Con to shop. You mentioned PAX, etc. People go there to spend money, right? And Gamehole, people go there to game. So you get a lot of real high quality games going on.
nice. I mean, there's always like that short list of cons that I hear about that I feel like it's all positive, and like Gary Con, Gamehole Con, and North Texas RPG Con are the ones that I feel like I've always heard positive things. And I think to your point, that those are a lot more about the gaming. I mean, yeah, PAX Unplugged, a lot of people there to see kind of new games and shop and kind of do that thing. And not that there isn't a ton of gaming there, but there definitely is that kind of like, hey, we're gonna kind of show off our new products and please, 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 please buy them. One thing that's a little, I don't know if it's like just, I guess it's probably the nature of things, but I feel like Kickstarter must have changed the way that the things were, because one thing that was maybe a little bit frustrating is that, and I don't know what it would have been like in the pre-Kickstarter times, but you see this. I know it's happened at PAX. I imagine it must happen in other places. You see this game, it seems amazing. You're like, you know what? I got $100 in my pocket, and I just want to go there and buy and get this game because it looks amazing. I played in the demo game, sold, right? And then you go to it, and it's like, oh no, this is coming to Kickstarter next month. So here's the QR code. You can kickstart it, and hey, if you're lucky, maybe you'll see it in 2.5, 3 years. And I just feel like, man, what a like a sucker punch. I saw some really cool games, and I'm like, I just want to take these home now. And it's like, but I don't want to have to remember in 3 years to come back to it, and I don't really want to kickstart it. So it's like, oh well, I guess I'll
I
spend
think
my
there's an
$100
element
somewhere
of
else.
that. I mean, I do think there's an element of people using or businesses using conventions as an advertising platform for further crowdfunding projects that are going to be coming. I guess that makes sense. If you have a Kickstarter looming, you want to try and get the word out. But I understand your position where you want to walk home with it right now. And I get that. It's a little bit like the booth that will, let's say, have a canvas print of a map that you can buy, but they don't actually have them at the store. You could just then pick one and order it online. And it's like, yeah, but if I was going to do that,
I
I
could
wouldn't
have
be
done that at
talking to you at a
home.
convention, would I?
Right.
You
Right.
know, there's a sense of immediacy, I think, at conventions. You could
Yeah.
touch it, handle it. You want to walk away with a box or a roll under your arm. You want
Right.
it now. It's impulse buying in many ways.
I mean, and they have it there. Like, I mean, I get it from their end, but it's like the physical pieces are here. It looks amazing. Everything. Can't I just have one? It's like, no.
Right.
It's just it just has changed things. And it is what it is. I have my issues with a lot of that stuff. Everything ends up being like 2 to 3 years out, and and I don't like it when I really don't like it when big publishers use Kickstarting, because that's not really what Kickstarting was for. It's supposed to be for the little guy that doesn't have capital and doesn't have existing sales to kickstart something. And if you're a big publisher, you have all that stuff. Like, you are not supposed to then need to be crowdfunded. You're kind of supposed to just be taking sales. But it's just turned into this kind of pre-order weird thing.
I want to, without knowing the Kickstarter folks, I'm going to hazard a guess that took them by surprise, but it also brings in more money than God, so they're going to let it roll.
Yeah, no one's gonna stop.
No one's going to stop it. But I think for them, they probably didn't anticipate that was going to be like the evolutionary step for their platform. I tend to agree with you, but I understand how this evolutionary step took place, and it's just not going to change now. You get someone like Simon come in there, called
Right,
Minionaut,
exactly.
and like blast $3 million out of the door, and it's like, and the thing that gets me too is you're not even funding for the product now, because some of these companies, they already have the product made. They've got it. They've designed it, they've made it, they've printed it, it's sitting in a box behind them. They show you the box with all of the miniatures out, and there's an element of, so what are we? You're just using this to sell. This is a selling platform, and that is the reality of it.
Yeah, or even like doing things like changing kind of the nature of the games. 'Cause I know like now that the thing on Kickstarter is so hot is minis. And look, minis are cool, even though I'm not currently painting them. Nothing looks cooler, I think, on a lot of applications, whether it's board games or kind of accessories, as minis. They are cool, no doubt. And they get these amazing sculpts. But it just becomes that everything now becomes a game with minis, with these giant boxes that are now like double stack boxes to fit in just tons and tons of minis. And it has nothing to do with whether the game as a thing actually needs minis or that minis actually do something. It's just because they know that maybe they could have charged $50 for the game, but now if they throw in a bunch of minis, now it's like $250, and people will ooh and ah over the sculpt and the detail and everything else, and they'll plunk it down. So
I have
they
a
do
few
it.
of those boxes behind me on
I
top
do
of my
too.
display case, yes. And I
I
got them
absolutely have
for the
fallen for it.
minis. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I've been lucky enough that like on Board Game Geek and some of those places where you can kind of aftermarket, pick up stuff used and whatnot. I've scored some games that I enjoy that have minis. Though I did get the Dune Imperium minis. I
Yeah,
didn't
that's
realize
a
how
really
big
good
those were
idea.
going to
I
be.
actually have a stack of games I intended to sell. I should I should be looking at Board Game Geek for trying to have an outlet there.
They're really good. I mean, I have not sold anything on Board Game Geek. As a buyer, it's been a positive experience. They do take a cut out of it, but they have like, I don't know if you're familiar with Board Game Geek much. They have those geek lists, and you can basically make your kind
Yeah.
of sell list. You can kind of run it however you want. If you just want to have a flat price, you can do it that way. If you want to have a kind of auction style, and people do it all kinds. I mean, you can go in and check them out, and then it basically when someone wins, then you as the seller would kind of set up a market entry for your game, and you would just kind of, it would just be like a private thing that you would send to the buyer. They fill it out, do whatever, and then they kind of do that in that system, and then you do PayPal or whatever, and then you would send it out. But I have not had a bad experience. My
All right.
confidence as a
All
buyer
right.
when I've gone through Board Game Week, and I've done it a fair bit, has been good. I don't know, as a seller, I
I'm gonna
don't
check
know,
it out. I
but
didn't even think about it.
yeah, it's a
I'll
good
probably check
option.
it out.
I don't know if like money wise or anything, it's better than like an eBay or something, but I don't know. I feel like maybe I don't know.
eBay seems shady nowadays. I don't know. It's been a while since I bought anything on eBay. I got ripped off once, but it's just, I don't know. The whole thing just seems a little bit like someone just trying to shiest money out of someone else. I don't know. I don't like eBay anymore.
Yeah, I haven't gone to eBay much. Only really when I'm looking for a couple of niche things that through other channels tend to get way overpriced. Like I want to get a Forgotten Realms box for like the first edition or second edition Forgotten Realms, and if I go through kind of normal channels, people just have these super inflated
Oh
ideas of
yeah,
what they are. But
like
then you go to
three
eBay and it's
thousand
like,
dollars, and it's like,
yeah,
no, no.
yeah.
What do you do? Yeah, I know. I get you.
But you go to eBay and you kind of see like they're kind of get market corrected, so that if someone has something crazy and it doesn't sell, their price kind of tends to come back, you know, to the fold. Um, Perkins, I was going to write the whole little chat on this. I think Perkins says about Kickstarter, it takes away a bit of the risk, so we're likely to see more products reach reality than in the past before Kickstarter. I mean, that's true, but I think what happens is, Perkins, is there is a price, and the price is that your consumer protections are essentially eliminated, because when you go through Kickstarter, you are donating. And so you do not, unlike a pre-order, unlike other things, they have no binding responsibility to deliver what they say and do. And so with these big companies who don't technically need these things, then to give them that kind of angle is kind of not, I don't think it's necessary. I'm sure they might say differently, but I don't think so. Anyway, I don't want to go down the Kickstarter road because I have used Kickstarter, and I'm actually working through my own Kickstarter that I've been struggling mightily for. So I'm not sure I would do it again, but I'm going to see this one through. But I'm a little guy, so I'm the kind of person that Kickstarter is for. Someone like Simon that makes who knows how much, has all their games in big box stores. Everybody know they're all over the world, does not need Kickstarter. Kickstarter was not technically made for them, but as Alyssa said, I think Kickstarter, yeah, it just kind of happened, and Kickstarter's happy to take all that stuff. And because those companies put out games that are so much money, I mean, that just makes Kickstarter's cut bigger. If you're funding something that's worth $10, Kickstarter's cut's going to be small unless you get a bazillion backers. But if your thing is like $400 for some super premium whatever, chances are they're going to get bigger cuts. So they are happy. Tell me what's going on with Cthulhu. Are they still in Egypt? The gang, did they get destroyed by that?
So I'm going to tell you about the game, then I'm going to tell you about the group. Okay,
oh, please.
So we did our final chapter in Cairo this last Saturday. So it's fresh off the press. We had one player character die.
Oh.
They are lucky it was not a total TPK though, because it is the type of encounter where it could go horribly wrong. But they were super smart. They're basically fighting something big.
Yeah,
big.
So I want to reset.
Black Sphinx.
Let's reset. Yeah, let's reset. Because I remember you showed me the Black Sphinx, but I it's been a month. So, and folks might be listening or watching.
And I don't want to do spoilers, right? Even on the show or after the show. But basically, there is a location in Cairo where you can end up facing the Black Sphinx.
Right.
And you can obviously, as a group, decide, no, we're not going to do that. Just walk away. That's a valid approach. You can also, as a group, accidentally bump into the Black Sphinx, and now you're completely unprepared for what is about to happen.
And the Black Sphinx is really deadly, right?
I'm talking about, so characters have, let's say, for the sake of arguments, on average, 12 to 15 hit points forever, right? The Black Sphinx does plus 15 d6 damage as a damage bonus. And it gets 3 attacks. This is a smushing machine. It will obliterate you. There's just not even... And it has 19 points of armor on it.
Oof.
Which means that if you fire your 1d10 plus 2 pistol, it's probably not going to care. It bounces, literally. And it has 85 hit points. This is a monstrous encounter.
Now, I remember I remember you said that they had a plan, and I thought you might have said something about what their plan was. It has something to do with the explosive or something that they had. They had something...
So in Call of Cthulhu, horrific things happen. And much earlier on, one of the characters had a pseudo dream run-in with Nyarlathotep Hetep himself, and was gifted to zombies, which sent him kind of insane. And he sent the zombies off into the desert to bury themselves because he just doesn't want to deal with it, right? He's not that type of guy. And that was that. Well, they decided if they could get back into the desert and find the zombies, they could strap dynamite to them and have the zombies head to the Black Sphinx with a fuse burning.
Nice.
That's what they opted to do.
That's like part Wile E. Coyote, part like, I don't know, Walking Dead or something. It's very clever. All right, so were they able to find their zombies? Was he able to go out in the desert and
they
say,
found
like,
the zombies,
ho, ho, ho?
They strapped them with dynamite. One of them actually had a background of being a World War I demolitions expert, so this is all fair. They had actually done a side quest which had earned them the favor of Bast, so it was a token that they could have to at some point call in her favor to help them.
All right.
And they decided, as they faced the Black Sphinx, to break this token, call in her favor, and asked her to enable these zombies to walk faster and truer towards the Black Sphinx. So,
all right.
They scoped it out ahead of time. They knew what they were dealing with. They managed to get the zombies. They were basically pulling in all the cards.
Yeah,
from the previous sessions.
They were doing a good job with the resources.
I'm not going to punish them. This is smart thinking. And the zombies exploded. The Black Sphinx actually took it. He took the damage, but a few extra shots from their rifles and things like that, and it finally took it down. But there were other creatures in this this area that are also fighting. They're a weird combination of animal and man.
So wait, they took down the Black
together.
Sphinx? They did it?
They took it down. They
Whoa.
took it
And this
down.
is not when the fatality happened.
No,
Oh.
because as they're fighting the other creatures, one player decided that she was going to shoot towards the creatures that were all over one of their friends.
No, firing into melee. That's risky.
Yeah. So, and no, I'm actually bad at killing characters because I want this to be a story. This is a campaign that's lasting 3 years. If you can have a character that lasts for a while, I want to encourage that.
Sure.
You know, but you just fired into melee, and she rolled like 99, and I'm like, yeah, that's really not good. I'm like, oh, okay. Marcus, this is a guy that ended up dying. I was like, give me a luck roll. If you get this, the gun actually jams instead. He failed his luck roll. I'm like, shit. All right. So the character the player who just did this, I was like, give me a D6. Odds. Now I'm already going too far as a GM. I recognize that, but I'm like, odds. The gun is actually an old gun, and it jams instead. She rolled evens. I'm like, look, I've already taken this thing too far. She fired into melee. This is on her, and she hit her friend, and she killed him.
Wow.
She killed him. After all of that, she killed him. He's dead.
That's always a funny thing that happens. You think, well, the Black Sphinx is probably going to take somebody down, if not more. It's like, no, they do all of that, and it's your own teammate that takes you down.
And she felt bad, but also, I mean, with the number of dice that we just rolled to say, well, actually, maybe it's not like going to do this. It was destined to be. It's destined to be.
The dice had spoken.
But all of the characters, all of the players have got backup characters. So he was like, okay, I've got my backup character. I'm ready to go.
Was he someone who would, how many of the PCs have been around since the beginning?
Nearly all of them. So okay. I've got five players in the party. One of them joined like one session in, and we're talking about something that's been running for 2 years now. So one of them joined one session in. So basically she's been there since forever. One of them joined a little bit later on. They had done Peru. They had done New York. I think he joined partway through New York, if I remember rightly. So he's been there for the majority of the time too. So these are all characters that have managed to, through smart, survive.
Yeah, sure. So, were they able to uncover whatever the big prize or whatever this Black Sphinx was and all those critters were guarding?
Yeah, they've definitely. And again, I don't want to do any spoilers.
Nope,
but there were rewards to be had, so they did that. They did the final chef's kiss to Cairo. It was actually, they've been there for a while, so it was a little bit sad because they were staying at a place called the Shepherd's Hotel. So there's like they know like all of the people that work there, and they know them. So it was like leaving family behind, and they have headed off for the next mini adventure, which is in search now of the Holy Lands.
Oh, okay. Now, is your husband going to take over with Shadowrun now, or not yet?
I'm going to run about 2 more sessions while they do the Holy Lance. This is not part of the regular Masks game. It's a little side quest that I have inserted. So they're heading off to Syria. There's a little side quest there that they're going to do. I don't know if I told you, but basically, in between sessions, in between chapters, I always, instead of just redlining their journey, I always insert a little side quest of my own devising. And I've been doing his historical sort of
you mentioned that they had the Roman part where they were doing with the lance, and so now they're getting to revisit it with their modern characters.
Exactly. So what happened is when they went from England to Cairo, I did a side quest where I actually put them in the bodies of Muslims around 1000 AD, and it was around the time of the First Crusade. I think it's around 1080 AD, and it's the Siege of Antioch. And in history, the Templars miraculously find this, the Holy Lance there. And I had them be part of that in stealing the lance. So they steal the lance. One of the NPCs takes the lance to hide it, but gives them a puzzle box with a key in and a map in it, and tells them to take that to Cairo. So fast forward, the modern characters know that the Muslims took this puzzle box with a key and a map in it to Cairo, and they found it, and they manage to decipher the puzzle box, pulling out the map, pulling out the key that tells them where they can find this lance.
That's
So
really cool.
that's what they're trying to piece together now. So, and we're going to do that. Then when that's done, I'm going to stop for a couple of months as I prepare for the next chapter.
Ooh, that means in a couple of these streams, we're going to get to talk Shadowrun, which
yes, we
is
are
going to be excellent. So tell me about your group. So you said you want it.
5 players, and I've lost 2.
Oh.
Yeah, so this is a bit of a bummer to kind of end things on, but I've been GMing for a long time. I've been GMing since like 83, 84, something like that. I've been in large groups, I've been in small groups, I've been in groups where people are drifting in and out. I've seen the whole thing, but I don't think I've ever had half a group drop out in one go. So basically, and I'm torn in so many ways. It's kind of emotional. Because the 2 players that are dropping out are actually the 2 players that are most engaged with the game. Like, they turn up in costume. They've got a planning board. They spend their day planning things out and like joining the clues and stuff. Turn up in pith helmets and magnifying glasses. Like,
I
they
could
are
use a
super
pith helmet. I'd like a pith helmet, I think.
Right. They are like super, super, super engaged. They're wonderful players and wonderful human beings. But one of them is just having a bit of a time with life right now. Just life is really putting on her big time. And she needs to just reset life and kind of get her brain in gear. So she's like, I just need to drop out for a hiatus. The problem is the other player is her husband. And he feels weird playing without her. So just like that, I'm down to 3 players.
Yeah, that's tough. Well, hopefully they'll come back. Hopefully life will rebound.
Hopefully they will in the future. Absolutely. It's tough because there's certain things that you, as a GM, you put them in the game for a certain player. And now that player's gone. So I'm like, God damn it. I was playing this scene out in my head. But I'm probably just going to continue with 3 players until,
do you recruit for new folks, or do you feel like just continue with your 3 and hope the other 2 come back, or what how do you generally approach that when this kind of thing happens?
I don't know yet. We've had 3 players in the group before and it's been fine. In fact, if anything, it was quite homely and friendly and intimate between us because everyone got to have like a time in the sun. So that actually worked out pretty well. I don't really want to drag new blood into it as a reaction to this. Not yet. But we're also all friends. And so what's going to happen is I'm going to sit down with the other 3 guys and we're going to say, what do we do? Should we just continue on our own for a while? And what I might do to handle this is there's something called Pulp Cthulhu.
I've heard of it.
Actually, it's an expansion upon the core rule set that is meant to make it a little bit more Indiana Jones-like. It has that feel. You're suddenly fighting a bunch of cultists and punching them out, and you're more of a big hero, Right. And it was suggested to me that I could introduce some pulp rules just to make the investigators a little bit more durable.
Yeah,
and therefore capable of doing whatever the next chapter is going to be. And by the time I do the next chapter, maybe my friend her hiatus will be done.
I mean, look, I'm the group I'm jamming. It's 3. So I'm in the same 3 plus me. So we're all 4. And these were guys that somebody I knew, in the real world kind of found these guys, I think through an online group, like a father's group, like a parent, like a parental kind of thing group. And they were kind of interested and kind of recruited them. And we just kind of got a nice thing going. So I think it hasn't come up much to really find new people because I feel like, especially with the internet, it's just so hard I don't really feel like going through kissing a bunch of frogs to try to find the prince when I feel like, well, we've got three people going and I don't mind the pace and they don't mind how I'm doing the game and we're all getting along. So why risk adding something else into the mix that may be a detriment?
You're 100% right. And Perkins makes an interesting observation too. But you're 100% right. It's like this is a social game. Right? This is a social time, and it is very easy to put someone in the mix that doesn't quite fit, and it could be for any number of reasons, right? Yeah. It could be a smoker in a non-smoker group, a drinker in a non-drinking group. Someone is a little loud and boisterous when the rest of the group doesn't like that too much. It can be hard, and if I have like a gem of 3 incredible guys, and I do, and I put a 4th in there that doesn't quite fit. I just messed with things. So I'm
Yeah.
probably better off just running with what I know.
Especially if you can. And it seems like from what you said that Call of Cthulhu is pretty scalable because you're not really you're not really doing too many times where you're, I mean, obviously Black Sphinx aside, where you're trying to go and really go head to toe with stuff. So you could do a lot of the investigations with 3 instead of 5. You maybe lose a little bit of your efficiency. Things might take you an extra day, whatever, because you just have less actions or less people to do actions in a given time. But other than that, it kind of scales okay. In my case, I'm playing like a BX OSR game, and I haven't really changed the numbers at all. I just told them, well, get more hired hands if you can, or just be careful. And they've taken to it, and they have been totally, on board with it. And
Exactly.
like, why
And
mess with that?
I could do the same thing, right? I mean, I could give them a hired hand. If I was so inclined, just add a little bit of pulp, which gives actually the characters some traits. So you could start using luck to improve rolls and things like that. So it's just a subtle thing. It can just help a little bit. But just like Perkins says, 3 to 4 is a decent size. There's nothing wrong with that at all. It's just going to be an adjustment, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Are those 2 players? Does everyone from your game play in the Shadowrun game? Is it the same group?
Everyone plays in the Shadowrun game, although one of them I don't think enjoyed the Shadowrun game, so it's probably. Here's a weird thing: out of the 2 players that are dropping out, one actually isn't a gamer, which is going to sound weird, but it's like Call of Cthulhu can and does pull non-gamers into it because it's a narrative game. Everything's in your head. It's a story, right? I've had the wife of one of my players who has never rolled a dice in her life join 2 of my games now because she just loves the Call of Cthulhu and the Masks of Nyarlathotep setting. But if we asked her to play Shadowrun, she'd go, oh, no. And so the husband is in the same boat. He's not really a gamer. So when we used to shift to Shadowrun, he was less entertained. So I think from that perspective, maybe it was just meant to be, Yeah,
I mean, genre is important, right? There are definitely genres that are going to appeal to some people, and someone who's like, I don't want to watch a superhero movie, but then they'll watch something else. It's like, wasn't that kind of the same as a superhero movie? It's just they don't, it's like vampires. Isn't that kind of the same? They're kind of super powered and they're flying around and doing whatever. It's like, yeah, but it's not superheroes. They're vampires. It's like, well, okay, I guess,
Right.
So that's cool. I mean, I'm really going to be curious about your experiences with Cthulhu Con, Chaosium Con, just because I feel like there's a lot of the kind of thing that like Critical Role really brought to the foreign D&D is a lot of that kind of storytelling, narrative kind of stuff. So I'm kind of curious if Chaosium is going to try to maybe mine more of that, and I'm wondering like if their convention they're going to try to get more of that kind of stuff going, because Cthulhu as a system and a setting seems to be kind of all about that stuff, because the other things are essentially your shortcut to mostly losing the game, right? Like your ability to do things is not your ability to run up and punch them. It's going to be all this kind of puzzly, figuring things out, using your mind, making connections, doing all this kind of fun narrative, sort of story-driven stuff that I feel like it would be appealing to a lot of people. I guess maybe I'm curious as to why in this kind of era, to the extent that, I mean, I have no idea what the numbers are, but I feel like Call of Cthulhu always is that kind of, it seems to me sort of an even keel of like adoption, like how many folks are playing it. Like it's not really up or down, it's kind of the same. And I wonder like if maybe doing this, trying to get a little bit of its own convention, get of its own energy to kind of say like, hey, like these games are really cool. Because I feel like a lot of people, if they heard your kind of stories, would be interested in it, but you don't tend to hear them a lot.
Well, I think, yeah, and I think you're right. This is one reason why I actually post my stories as part of my patron awards, honestly, on Patreon, because people did have an interest in sort of knowing about the game. But I think I'm not going to start naming numbers here, but for the last couple of years, they give the popularity of gaming systems as some group that does like a study of it. And of course, WotC and Dungeons and Dragons is number 1. Chaosium is 2.
Oh, really?
Like Call of Cthulhu is number 2. Now, they're a distant number 2. Of course they are. But they are a solid number two. And the popularity of Call of Cthulhu has been growing. And I think
Okay,
we're
that's
seeing
cool.
the convention as part of that. And it was explained to me actually by Anna Meyer, and I believe that she's correct, that the more that Dungeons and Dragons grows, the better it is for other systems. Because if you're now at the table role playing, you start to become aware of these other games and you're already open to it. And you start saying, well, what is this Shadowrun? I'll try that out. What is this Call of Cthulhu? I want to try that out. And you go to conventions, you play in other games. So
Yeah.
the more that WotC can be a rating success and just get millions and millions of more people in, that's going to start trickling down into these other systems.
Yeah, I was watching your mapping show when you had a couple of guys from Frog Gods and a couple other folks on there chatting with you guys, and they made that point. As much as you hear fans who are very tribal about like, oh, WotC stinks and all this stuff, they were very much like, thank goodness for WotC because they've that kind of that they've raised the water level. They're raising all boats. Like their success is bringing
It's the
everybody
hobby
up,
that is being
and
successful
that's
here,
allowed
right?
them to be super successful, and they acknowledge that a lot of that has to do with however it came about, but the popularity or resurgence of Dungeons and Dragons and what they've done with it has been great for them. They're not
Right.
angry at it or mad at it or anything. They're like, no, this is tremendous.
Get in another 50 million people from China. Get in another 12 million people from India. This is going to become something that is very much mainstream,
Yeah,
and
I think
that
maybe my
just makes it a game
numbers
system.
in my head must be old because I just had assumed that Paizo was number two because I felt like they were number two
No,
forever.
I don't think they are anymore. And now I could be wrong on that, but I think Paizo have fallen from
They've
grace from their
slipped a bit.
heyday.
Interesting. Well, good for Cthulhu because it's nice to have something different. Like I love D&D, I love fantasy gaming, but it's nice to see that it's not just like fantasy, fantasy, fantasy. That like, hey, you've got these different things in here. I mean, I will await your report from Chaosium Con. Um,
Oh, you'll know about it.
whenever that
You'll
whenever that
absolutely. I'll
happens.
be taking pictures and videos. You'll know. We'll sit down. We'll do a little post mortem on KSM Con. We'll chat about it.
Absolutely, and it'll be cool. I mean, that's kind of the other nice thing is right. You're gonna be seeing it kind of. You're gonna have that guest, that kind of attendee. I mean, other than you doing that one panel, but you're gonna have that real sort of attendee kind of point of view. But it's good to hear that it's growing because it's on my kind of list of things I want to try. And like I said, I've been a fan of Cthulhu forever. I know Lovecraft was a horrible human being, but I've always enjoyed the ideas of it. So
Well, and what I will say on that point too is, yes, he was absolutely a product of his time. But what is modern day Call of Cthulhu is nothing or very distantly related
yeah,
to his original works. We've seen 100 years of evolution of different writers taking that and taking it on. And Chaosium have done the same. Yes, have they taken that setting? Yes. Does that have anything to do with the writer behind it? Absolutely not. What
yeah.
we experience now is Chaosium's version of Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah. Is there anything? Are they doing any product releases there? And I don't mean I'm not asking for insider info,
I
but like, is there
I'm not
anything there?
sure. I don't honestly know. They might. I don't know. Anything I say would be pure speculation. So
That's
I
half of
wouldn't
my
be
show is
surprised
pure
if they talk about the
speculation.
future. I wouldn't be. There's a dinner, a big dinner. It's like you can buy tickets for it the night before the actual convention. I know there's going to be a lot of people there. I would be surprised if the presidents didn't stand up and talk about things that Chaosium are doing coming down the pike. So we'll probably get to hear about some things, I would imagine.
Is there anything that is if you could? I don't know. Is there like a dream product, or if you thought like there's something I would really love for them to do, either a setting book, a location, a story, whatever it would be. What would be the one that like you would be most excited for if you could have your pick of?
You know, their big three games or campaigns, Masks of Nyarlathotep, Horror on the Orient Express, and Beyond the Mountains of Madness. I don't think they have 7th edition versions of them, or modern day versions of them. Even the masks is something that was done a short while ago, and that's the most recent one. I would love to see I think they did Horror on the Orient Express about 2012. So even that's 10 years ago
That's
now.
a long time. Yeah.
That's a long time. So I wouldn't mind seeing, one of these big campaigns kind of relaunched with all of the bells and
Mm.
whistles from the HP Lovecraft Society, because they do incredible boxed prop sets, like a partnership between the two. I would love to see something like that.
Oh, Perkins said a cyberpunk Cthulhu mix-up. That's an interesting one.
Yeah.
Did they not
Now that's
do?
actually that's the game my husband's running in Shadowrun. He's doing Cthulhu in
Yeah.
Shadowrun.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice. So maybe
Yeah.
your lance will show up, and then like in
Right.
2042, the lance is back. What was I gonna say? Oh, did they not do these big kind of huge campaign books anymore? Is that why they haven't? Have they changed kind of the way they do adventures now? Or
Well, I think it's always been the case that 90% of the stuff that comes out are like, your one-off adventures, even if it's a good sized book that's going to take a few sessions to complete. I think that's always going to be that's your bread and butter, right? Because who the hell can handle doing a game for 6 months or 12 months or more? But these classics, I think there's room for those to be, because every time they rewrite them, they always keep the core but add to them. And I would love to see that for something like Horror on the Orient Express, or Beyond the Mountains of Madness, or something like that.
they could
I mean,
probably use
they
some
have them
new
for sale. They
maps.
have them out there. I own them all, but I'd like to see a 2020
So what
version.
we need to see is the Alyssa Faden Orient Express map from the entirety of Asia in super detail with
You
like
know I'll do it, man. You know I'll do it. That's how I'm going to be spending my year. Once I get these commissions done, I'm actually planning on. I'm
yeah,
going to draw
you
New
mentioned that.
York.
Oh, did you
Yeah,
decide which before we go? Did you decide which city was going to be your
I
first
don't
one?
know which one yet, but New York it's definitely a soft spot for me. But maybe I'll do Shanghai because my players haven't been there yet, and it's
Oh,
needed
that's a
in the
good one.
Masks game.
I feel like that would be really good. So I've been there once a couple of years ago, and it's kind of a cool city, and it has kind of I don't know really the history of Shanghai, but I feel like it has a very kind of European vibe to a lot of the buildings. I don't know if that's where that came from or how that developed, but I feel like
Is
that
that
would be a kind of a cool
colonial? Is
mix.
that colonial um, influence? Isn't it?
Yeah, but I feel like if
Cairo is much the same.
especially if you were to take it back in time, I feel like there'd be a neat mix between kind of traditional Chinese
Oh
architecture
yeah.
and kind of layout, and then these kind of colonial elements where they mix, and of course throw in like Cthulhu-ish kind of stuff. And I feel like that would be an awesome spot. But we are at the top of the hour,
Yeah.
bottom of the hour. I don't know. We're at the hour as usual. Always too fast. Is there anything? I always have your links to your websites or anything besides your hard work on the maps. Is there anything you want to let folks be aware of? When's your next mapping show? When's your next
Oh, next week.
next week? And are
Fantasy
you
mapping show next Friday. So yeah, tune in on Lord Gasumba's channel on Twitch and listen to Anna and I actually start talking about tools for mapping.
nice? And I know you've been putting a lot of your DM tips videos on your YouTube channel. Is there any? And is what's the next one on your list? Are you have any in the pipeline, or are you thinking about your next one now?
Actually, so I don't quite know, but I am going to be doing one this weekend, and I'm not sure which one it's going to be. But watch out for some shorter reactions to people talking about DMing. So that's going to become a theme that I do.
All right,
Actually.
if I see my name come up as Alyssa reacts to one of my videos, I'm gonna. I don't know if I could bear the criticisms, but all right, Alyssa. Well, thanks as always for joining. I know we catch you right when you're getting to dinner time, so I want to make sure to let you go. Thanks as usual. Thanks, folks, for hanging out. Perkins holding down the chat with a bunch of questions and comments. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
thank you, Perkins.
Thanks everybody who tuned in, and I will be streaming tomorrow, and then we will talk to Alyssa in a month or so around obviously in and around her busy con schedule. Alyssa, talk to you later, and everybody, I'll see you around.
Bye.